Today I'll be doing Beyblade physics on Mirage Fafnir from the Pro Series, and for sample bays I have Twin Notus 2 Glaive Dimension S and Soul Luinor 10 Absorb So I think is the name of the layer weight. I'm going to start off with the battle between Notus and Fafnir and then go into the parts and stuff. Notus is starting out in Smash mode. 3, 2, 1, let it rip! Huh. I can try launching Fafnir a bit softer and then see what happens. Because that was a bit of a hard launch. So that's a softer launch. And I think still Notus may have barely won that, either that or it was a tie. But I'll go into the parts now. The performance tip of Mirage Fafnir is nothing. It's got a spring in it so that when it launches, it kind of absorbs the impact, and it also would hopefully help it absorb impacts that go downward too. It's a lot like Absorb in that it goes up and down, but Absorb can lock in place, or the outer plate can, and nothing is just one bit that goes up and down, and it can move a little bit. It doesn't lock in place like that. And it also can change the height of the bay depending on how heavy the bay is. Like, Mirage Fafnir is pretty heavy, so it goes down a little bit. I'll go over to the layer now. The chip, the sparking chip and chip core are pretty average. The sparking chip core is just normal plastic kind, and the Fafnir chip is normal as far as I know. These prongs interact with some of the prongs in the tip, and they keep it locked in with the bay like that. The Mirage ring is rubber all the way around, which is supposed to help absorb hits for spin stealing and stuff. But you saw, with Notus, that was still pushing it down in that battle. And the chassis is 2S, the second stamina chassis. It has 3 points to it, and Mirage also has 3 points, so you can align the points to get Absorb mode, or mismatch the points to get Counter mode. So, with Absorb mode, you can absorb hits more, is the idea, and with Counter mode, there's a bit more plastic showing, so it can counter hits, maybe. Also, the underside of 2S, I was real surprised by how smooth it was. It's really nice. Notus may not be the best example for showing off Absorb mode against right spin bays, but it can work. So you've seen Absorb mode, now I'll show you Counter mode. Actually, there's something else I want to show off with Notus. I'm going to switch it to upper mode. So I can show you this, and then I'll keep Fafnir in Absorb mode. Three, two, one, let it rip. Okay, I'm gonna move the height for Dimension Slingshot down so that it's easier to control. 3, 2, 1, let it rip. I kind of soft launched Noctimus, but it goes into what I want to show off here. As you saw, Noctimus won that. It did almost burst. One thing with Fafnir absorb mode is like when right spins hit then and they have more spin, they also take burst resistance in addition to giving Fafnir spin. But one thing about the Noctimus layer especially is that there's a gap right here, and that fits right on this part of the dragon heads, and that means that when Fafnir has more spin, it's actually giving Noctimus spin. So Noctimus is the one stealing from Fafnir instead of Fafnir stealing from Noctimus. So that's a bit of a risk with spin stealers, is to give your opponent spin. And now let's try counter mode. I'm going to start off with against Soul Longinus, because counter mode, it seems like something that would do good against left spins, since you can't absorb attacks you can't spin steal from left spins, same spin. So counter mode might be better for left spins. So I'm going to show you what happens. 3, 2, 1, let it rip. As you saw, Soul Luinor won this. I think in most cases, well, also the Soul layer base might have something to do with it, but in most cases, the 2S chassis sticks out at a kind of low point, so that means Baze will hit that, and then that will push Fafnir down, and that will make it lose spin, which isn't really that helpful. And now I'll show you absorb mode versus Noctimus. I mean, counter mode. It's in counter mode. 3, 2, 1, let it rip. Huh. Notus ended up winning that, but a lot of the time testing these two, I noticed that since this points out, that means that this can't interface with this gap here quite as well, so it doesn't spin steal. So Notus can't spin steal quite as much from there, at least. Maybe it can spin steal from this part, but it can't spin steal from this part. But in general, I think absorb mode is all around better for this combo. And counter mode is only good if your opponent is stealing your spin. I'm gonna try that battle one more time. Let it rip. Huge hits. Noctimus is an attack layer. And tie. Yeah, kind of tricky of like the equalization, something to watch out for. Mirage being all rubber, I also really want to try 2D on it, since 2D has this rubber on it. I'll go ahead and do a battle against each of the sample bays and then tell you my thoughts. 2D well, yeah, I'll battle first. Let it rip. Well, ring out, I guess. Now let's try against Soul Luinor. Let it rip. And do that again. A bit of a softer launch there. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do these battles one more time. Let it rip. You can see the nothing driver or performance chip bouncing there from the hits. And Soul Luinor wins. Let's do one more against Noctimus, because that last battle was a bit crazy. Let it rip. Like that helps. I was gonna launch it again. They're opposite spins, so they can spin steal. And a tie. As you saw, 2D, its gimmick is that these come out and create a barrier, but they are also, the rubber is also alright for spin stealing. The trouble is that, well, it's a lot wider than 2S, so it can scrape pretty easily. You have to be pretty careful when launching it. It's like, if I give it much tilt, well, you saw there, if the side of it hits the side of the stadium, then it just grips and scrapes out of stamina. So it's got to watch out for scraping. And I found that in testing, the 2D performed, had basically the same results as counter mode of 2S. So, you saw Soul Luinor pushed it downward, and Noctimus didn't really have much different results. So in general, you might as well just use 2S in absorb mode, because like, at least with 2S, you have the option of absorb mode and counter mode, and you don't get the scraping that you get with 2D. And then you can have the option of counter mode if you're giving your opponent too much spin or anything. I'll do one more battle with each of these, and I think that's mostly it. Let it rip. Okay. That's a burst. Well, nothing really went out of control there. It hit, this made contact with the side of the stadium, and it spun out of control, and it just ran into the wall of Soul and bursted itself. You can have a bit too much grip there. Now with an Optimus. And Fafnir won that. Yeah. So yeah, absorb mode's better, usually, unless you're giving your opponent too much spin, and like you saw that round, it went pretty well, because one of the dangers is getting off center and tilting too much. But it's a good bay. It doesn't spin steel as good as some other combos I know, but still good bay. I think that's all for now, and thanks for watching.